Hey, good morning, everybody. Just logging into YouTube here. Hey, good morning, McGraw. I don't know about the upside. This upward move may not be over. You never know. Hey, good morning, everybody. Just logging it. All right, let's get going here. So big move last week. And sometimes I say this is where the heavy lifting starts. Up into this resistance area here. That being said, well, we don't look at the internals right away, but something let's cover because there's some good and there's some rather good and some bad, not real bad. All right. Point being, I'll get my little drawing tool out here. Yeah, charts. I've been doing good with that lately, but kind of blew it this morning. Okay. Okay. So the good part is this is what is supposed to happen with a move like that off of a low. You have usually internals would have been lower. Maybe that's attributive to all the bearish bets that were going on down below with all the news, Fed, Russia, yada, yada. Anyway, it didn't get down there, but the rally moved breadth all the way to a bearish extreme, which is actually bullish intermediate term. Short term, it's likely to pull back just because of the extent of the move and being up into resistance. You got the 200 MA there. You got a whole number of 4,500. You've got a pivot up here, some whatever resistance, so on and so forth. So I was kind of hoping for a gap up this morning that, would have been really overdone and then things would have come in. It's kind of flattish as I looked. Yeah, pretty much flat. And so the likelihood of a pullback now is reasonably good. It shouldn't pull back that much, maybe halfway. We'll see. We start out today with, does it even break a prior day's low? 4,400, another whole number, So we got these bars that are relatively big that bounce between whole numbers pretty much. So the range expansion was bigger than normal, let's say, for 4 days in a row, which is a bit different than what happened here, which was pretty much the same percentage move of about a little over 6%, 6.5% or so, give or take. This 4-day move versus this 4-day move, well, that started out with a little consolidation and then a wide range bar up, and then the range narrowed. And it also occurred after a nasty move to the downside, where this one occurred after a month or so of basing and a move up, which, is part of how a bottom forms, so at least a short-term bottom. So we'll see how this consolidates. That's to be the most bullish thing it could do is chop around back and forth up in here near the top of the range. If we were to get a correction bar, what could that be? Well, it could happen in different ways. I use the word bar, but it could be bars. It could be a red bar down by a green bar up. It could be a red bar down. It could be something like this, red, narrow range up. It's about retracements. How the retracement happens, it could happen in 1 bar, it could happen in 2 bars, it could happen in 3 bars. In any event, a pop down, back up again, could be correction bar or bars, and that should fuel a move up to 4,600. We need that correction bar. Things are extended here short term and up against, as I said, 4,500 on the SPX. Now, the good part is that sentiment is still way down here. Going back, last week or so, and my commentary was I was really hopeful that it would come down here and tag the lower band, and this would come down here. We get a push down there. It didn't happen. It was just too many on the bearish side with a lot of option positions, and it obviously just exploded the move up last week. So what we want to see, right, historically, is this come down toward the zero line. This is still down here. We get that correction bar, some kind of a buy. It could be a multiple day pullback. We really don't know how things happen, on the hard right edges, it's called. In any event, some kind of sideways or pullback. And then based on what I've explained, a move up, I'd say 4,600. Right? What shouldn't happen is, all the way back down again. I don't think that will, but, especially with the size of this bar here, it's just a monster sized bar. And, say, well, why is this one so big? And this is the same percentage move, and it doesn't look like that. Well, because this started in 1 week and went into the next week, whereas this all happened in 1 week. All right, just scrolling back here. I don't even think there's a bar that big. Maybe this one here, but this was in an uptrend at that time. This is still in a downtrend on the weekly time frame. And so we take individual concepts like percentage moves, big range bars, and put it within, its location. Right? What's to the left? What's the trend? What's multiple time frames, and so on. Okay. All right. Done with that. And futures. I would like a transitory controlled buy setup, no steep angle, please. Well, I don't take the market wishes and so on, but that would be nice. In reality, you know what? That was a question asked on YouTube, by the way, in the green room there. Something like this, because of the power of the move, it's more likely to have the correction bar type of situation. That's what should happen. And you say, well, why? Well, who created this move up? In part, we know it was the unwinding of hedges and an options expiration. That being said, this is institutions. And while historically, if you go back in history, they didn't flip on a dime as they do today and change the direction of their biases and what's moving. Things happen a lot faster than they used to. But with a move like this, they're all thinking the same thing: buy the dip. So unless some news comes out that rattles this market, odds are they're going to be aggressive in buying the dip. So, that's why I say a correction bar, an initial move down and then popping back up. So correction bar to where? See these overlapping opens and closes? This should be about the extent of any correction. And that could be intraday. That's why it could be a bottoming tail bar, right? Where it dips down and flips right back up again, because this is where they should want to step up in this area here, where I would assume if you were to put like a market profile on this, just because of the congestion. And what's a market profile? It's just a fancy way of looking where did a bulk of the trading occur. So where this was ripping right up, you'd have the bell curve, like this, and then you'd have it spike out in here, which would call the point of control, and then it would move back up again because of the multiple bars moving directionally bar by bar. And that's the essence of what a market profile is looking at, which obviously you can see just by looking at the chart and seeing where this occurred. And the same thing with a volume profile. The more bars that occur in a certain area, the greater the likelihood of that's where the majority of the volume would occur. Common sense. All right, so today, let's assume that after a big move, it's just a consolidation, which could be just chopping around back and forth here. We'll see if it holds the 50. It doesn't have to. It's subjective. On the top, yeah, McGraw, I saw your post, and I don't disagree with that. It seems far enough away. I'm not so keen on the upside, only because I do respect, the power of this move, and that there's nothing of significance here that's happening pre-market yet. So, I think that I would agree that that should be far enough away because of this move up, but it could more easily tag that than, come down to 43.60, which is below. And I guess we have to go back to SPX here, but 43.60 is well below Friday's range and into Thursdays. So even if today flips and goes down, just looking at, average moves, it's not likely to go down there. Now, look, with a move like this that occurred on Friday, they just better show up. Buyers better show up, right, before it gets down here, because common sense, we don't need to draw no fib lines, but common sense says with a power move like that, the demand should continue to come in where it's strong enough to hold, let's say, a reasonable amount, today above Friday's low, which is also, 4,400. So going down to 43.60, I agree with you. Now, there is a void. Let me just point out here the fact that this is a correction bar within an uptrend, right? Where it just, here it just tickled it. It just bounced under the low. So what we're looking for in the time frame we're talking about is a bar where prices are moving up. It takes out a prior bar's low or two prior bar's lows and springs back up again. So to get that on the daily time frame would be a continuation pattern. I just saw that, so I figured I'd point it out for those that aren't aware what that is. So I agree, that should be far enough away. I think that is more of a no-brainer than the 45.25. Well, I still would agree that it shouldn't go up there. All right. NASDAQ, same story, big move up. This took out the pivot high. All right. So nice move. It did stop it at the 50. This could be an M top. All right. So you had the overnight pullback. It's retesting where it pulled back from. Got a, kind of small 180 reversal, bearish 180 reversal there. See if it breaks the low. It's got a void below. And so we'll just be monitoring to see where it happens. Now, minor resistance, I wouldn't hang my hat on that very much because it's subjective. It's not what's directly to the left. And so this little congestion there, that's where things held. Breaking here, let's say, it should somewhere in here. Right? So pretty simple what we do. Right? We just look to the left and see where there's some overlapping bars. And while that isn't all that significant because it was just a little dip and back up again, there is some overlap there in that area. Adjusted that. So getting some overlap there. QQQ. See if this is moving. Yeah, it's moving with it. If anybody uses E-signal, the reason that does that is you have to pick apply instead of duplicate. So when you hit apply, it moves them together. Obviously didn't do that with the others. So another chart that supports, it's likely to stall here and pull back a bit and consolidate. The Dow was down earlier, I guess on the Boeing news. Overall, pretty much the same chart as you can see. Russell's actually up. It's up at the top of the range. There are those pivots. So another chart that supports looking for things to stall. Bitcoin. It's not much of a consolidation, but, again, it popped under the low. It held. It's not doing anything this morning, like nothing is. But these few bars are sideways at this pivot. if it clears Friday, it should go to the top of the range. What it does there, we'll see. But it's been holding here. So I would just set an alert that, and other stocks related to Bitcoin. And this has had some correlation to the broader markets. It's worth setting alert, see what it does. Crude oil up a bit. Last week we looked for it to come down here and bounce. It's bouncing. It's at resistance. Silver, not doing much of anything, but can it get a retest of the bottoming tail bar and form a little retest and reversal pattern? That could get a move up. We'll be looking for that this week. Same with gold. And, as we look at other of the broader markets like we do, everything's the same. Monster bouts last week, big giant weekly bars. Historically, they need to take a rest and consolidate a bit. They're at resistance. Beware of choppy price action, at least at the beginning of the week. All yours, Dan. That being said, choppy price action is good for credit spreads.
Good morning. Yeah, but even credit spreads, since things are so extended, it's hard.
Extended is good, Dan. If you can get the premium above and far enough away, that's the whole key. You know that.
Oh, no, of course. On the call side, I was talking about on the put side is more difficult. And we found a couple, but they're the unique patterns that aren't just straight up. They're more some type of continuation or bullish price action. All right, so our opens are fine. Don't have many earnings trades here, but let's go through my list. Indo, $34. So, here's a big fat retest pattern gapping halfway into the range, 30-minute high. That's an idea. Boeing, Greg mentioned, they're getting hit, I guess two parts of news, but the unfortunate China 737 crash happened last night or yesterday. And then secondly, I read an article about Russia has shut down all most of their Boeing airplanes because of the trade, blockage thing. They can't get parts for it. And Greg, just real quick, another interesting thing on Russia, my buddy told me a week ago, and I forgot to tell you, how we're seizing their oligarchs' yachts and mansions and everything. He says Russia has seized 800 airplanes owned by the rest of the world, like locking them up, or lessors can't get their planes back. So that was one form of his retaliation. But yeah, so that's an interesting fundamental concept that you can't fly your planes because you can't get parts. And the article even said that they're flying a bunch of them illegally that aren't in compliance with safety things. All right, so Boeing, I'll keep an eye on for a call spread. It's a bearish gap. HUSN, look at this, beautiful, just wow, that thing almost doubled pre-market. Now it's a buy setup. We'll keep an eye on it. This was a nice kind of bottoming pattern. Had a closing breakout. Now it's gapping up. The gap's too big though, gapping up to 279. But it's saying it might be coming out of a coma. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, snow. So here's the conflict also, even if we do find sell setups. This was such a power move last week, along with everything else. So it's a sell setup at the declining point. It is what it is. So under Friday's low, it's a short. But you got a Climo and a bullish engulfing 180 reversal on the weekly. So you would not expect a new low. But if this trades under Friday's low, it's a call spread and it's a swing trade short. Mr. Big, $3, bullish gap at the resistance. Yeah, USO oil up again. You know, we can do some scanning there, see if we can get some put spreads. We did put NEM, was a nice gold stock. Buy setup, making the turn. VLON, all right, this looks like a biotech disaster. Gapping down to all-time lows. No interest. CEA, why am I looking at this? Oh, this is China Airlines. So light volume, but yeah, China Airlines, you know, but there's no volume. Disney in the paper, they're shutting down Shanghai, Disneyland because of COVID. But this is a sell setup, but it's a sell setup that it's not a quality sell setup because it did it from this kind of W bottom, new low reversal, power move, bullish engulfing on support weekly. So similar to that other one I talked about, Snow, it could be a short-term trade, but don't expect a new low. And it has a bearish gap here, bearish pre-market. So that's another call spread and swing short idea. Nielsen here getting whacked. They said they turned down, or I don't know, something. Yeah, they rejected a buyout offer. I'm just from a fundamental standpoint, I'm shocked that they were the ones to turn it down, and they're getting punished so badly. You know, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. I thought if you're turning down an offer, it means you're playing hardball and you think that you deserve more. So why would they get punished that badly? Let's keep an eye on it. Maybe we can sell a put on it. Wendy's positive mention of Barron's, but no pattern. Merns, I think it was earnings, but no pattern. AUID earnings, that's just on a death trend. PDD, 30-minute high, put spread idea. Cream, there's a lot of long-term climactics, bullish retests on the weekly. Cream, Square, look at Square. Folks, I don't know why so many people have such a hard time recognizing W bottoms and tops. That is a W bottom. You got momentum move down. You got a gap reversal. You got a higher low retest of a gap reversal, igniting bar, closing breakout, price void. That is a buy on a pullback. That is so bullish of a chart right there. But the problem is, what time frame are you trading? Because that's going to dictate your stop. I mean, if you wanted to buy it here with a stop under last week's low, if you're trading a weekly chart, that's fine. But it's, you know, still using multiple time frames. I don't like buying extended. Look at a couple here in the Bitcoin space. Now this one's not as good as Square because of these overlapping bars here. We prefer it to be a solid fluid move down, but it's close enough. Here's my double bottom, closing breakout, price void. Yes, yes, that's resistance. But if we're entering something as a core long, we plan on giving it room and let it bobble around. But if this sector really takes off, you know, this thing could be a double, could go to 50. Look at block, look at block. This looks like a core long right here on the weekly chart. Riot, another one. I don't like that. Mara, I like Mara so much better than Riot, even though they same business and they typically trade very similarly. What else? PayPal, similar to, but see, Square has a superior weekly chart. But we had a beautiful swing long in this as a bottoming pattern last week. We rode that whole thing up there. HSIC, Greg mentioned this in the weekend letter, and I went ahead and posted it over last Wednesday's high. Inverse head and shoulders here. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, rising 20, bullish engulfing weekly. It looks great. Mo, Greg mentioned, but we need a pullback. Low, he mentioned. All right, low looks pretty good. I put that in a thumbnail. HSI, I'm sorry, ALB. Now this is actually kind of a triple bottom. 1, 2, 3. So a triple bottom is by definition more support than a double bottom, and you got a price void. So this also would be a no-brainer put spread. McGraw, hint, hint. Allstate, we should have been on that on Thursday. FDS broke out, should have been on that on Thursday. Another big inverse head and shoulders looking thing. You got your moving averages curling over. You had a closing breakout on Thursday. FRBK. It's a little similar to HSIC, but HSIC is cleaner Wolfram because you got these tails where, you know, kind of attempts to break out and got rejected. So it's definitely a watch, but that's my optometrist test when we say, what do you like better, A or B? I like this one better because instead of the topping tails being rejected attempts, these are bottoming breakdowns are failed attempts down. So, all right, block we just talked about, BTCM, potential bottoming pattern, but I would have liked it better if it were gapping over last week's high to have a little shock pattern. Talking about shock pattern, that's Wednesday's MT Live. AMD, little consolidation here. So this is an example of a new trade that I'd rather take as opposed to something straight up. So this had the bullish bar on Wednesday, but then I got 2 consolidation bars. Is different than 4 straight up bars. That's on the other computer. Hut, it's also in the Bitcoin mining space. You know, another retest here. That would have been a beautiful put spread, but no juice. I did give Mara, and Greg even asked me that because Mara, I said, you know what, provided it opens above $27, then let's sell the 27 put. And he's like, what does that mean? And I said, yeah, it's wow, spready as can be, but I gave a limit. Spready as can be. The answer is because if this were a bearish gap under these, you know, deep down here, then I wouldn't want to rush into it. I'd want some time to assess it.